Harley Davidson is being forced to go woke. After the first company does it and the reaction is bad, you would think that all of the other companies are going to say, well, that didn't work out, we're not doing that. But today I'm going to do a video on why Harley Davidson and some of the other major corporations are all going woke and promoting certain agendas, minority group agendas. My name's Eamon, welcome to the channel, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to say is all of these companies, including Harley Davidson, I think are being forced into this particular situation or being forced into this way of thinking. There are two ways that these companies are being forced into these positions, and I'll tell you exactly what they are at the end of the video. So if you like what I'm saying, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. How has this issue affected you? What do you actually think about it? Comment below. The organisations behind this woke push are all known as the three-letter organisations. I'm deliberately going to be a little bit vague with my words. I'm not even going to name those particular three-letter organisations because I've found that when you do...
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
And that's the problem, isn't it? We should be allowed to have free, non-censored discussions about any issue that we like, but that's not happening at the moment. Harley Davidson has recently supported Budweiser beer after their controversy with the Bud Light brand. Anheuser-Busch owns the Budweiser and Budweiser Light brands. They recently commissioned an Instagram commercial featuring someone who perhaps is not seen as in their target market, or at least the blue-collar Bud Light workers disagree with who's representing the beer. Harley Davidson teamed up with Budweiser and put their brand on the Budweiser cans.
Limited edition Budweiser Harley Davidson cans.
It's an interesting thing to do so close to the Bud Light issue. I'm saying it's deliberate, and I'm saying they're being forced into it. Now, all of these woke companies seem to be the big multinational corporations. I think the whole thing started with Disney. Harley Davidson is now, looks like they're joining the club. Indian Motorcycles did it a while ago. Brown-Forman Corporation, they are the owners of Jack Daniels. They've done it recently with a very interesting advertisement. It's happening everywhere across the world. And it's significant that it's the public companies that are doing this. And I'm going to try and explain why. It's important to understand that Harley Davidson is a public company, which means that it is divided into many small portions called shares, and it's owned by whoever owns those particular shares. Most of these public companies, the shares are actually held by big corporations. If you are a shareholder, you have a voting right. The problem is the average person isn't going to have much of a say. It's the big corporations who own big chunks of these companies that get the say in what happens. And then these companies have executives. The executives are like the CEO, the people who actually run the day-to-day operations of these companies. They have a board of directors. The directors of the company are usually people who are put in those positions sometimes by the shareholders or influenced by the shareholders, and they're supposed to be there to guide and direct in terms of strategy where the company is going, to help that company along. And the directors would be the people who are responsible for hiring the executives that run the company on a day-to-day basis. Now, all of these big companies, their job is to make a profit because it's a business, and their job is to satisfy the shareholders because they are the owners of the company. So the only time they're going to satisfy us, the customer, is if it leads to a profit. People take everything so personally. These are big corporations that they don't have any feelings, they don't have any emotions. They're trying, well, I think they're trying their best to make a product that we like, but they have other people that they've got to answer to. Most of the products are ingrained in people. Like if you're a Harley rider, you like Harleys. A lot of people are very loyal to Harley Davidson. Think about it, if Harley Davidson goes woke, are you going to stop riding your bike? Are you going to sell it? What are you going to buy instead? All right, so back to share prices. It's way too early in terms of the share price to judge what's going to happen with these companies into the future. The Anheuser-Busch share price has actually been dropping since 2016. The Harley Davidson share price has been dropping since 2006 or 7. I think it had a bit of a peak in 2014 again. It's been dropping ever since. You can only really tell whether the share price is going to be affected in the longer term. So normally if I see a stupid ad like Bud Light ad or the support of Budweiser by Harley Davidson, I would just laugh it off and think, everybody makes mistakes, big deal. But what's happening is this is sort of happening everywhere and lots of companies are doing it. After the first company does it and the reaction is bad, you would think that all of the other companies are going to say, well, that didn't work out, we're not doing that. But even with the fallout, the next company along is doing it. And it's happening, once you look, you'll see it happening everywhere. So it's interesting to see that Harley Davidson has teamed up with Budweiser so soon after the Bud Light controversy, when you would think that this would be alienating their target market. Why are they doing it? They're being forced, and I'll get to that. What's even more interesting is the same agenda is being pushed into schools, into children's books, and this isn't just some coincidence, it's all linked. Why? This is all just part of a larger problem. So the thinking is, there are too many people in the world, energy is limited, we need to ration it out to you guys, that's us. The elites who are going to do the rationing, they're not planning on cutting back, it's us. And the easiest way to do that is to increase the prices. Have you noticed that some people are telling us categorically that there are too many people in the world? Are there? What do you think? Too many people in the world? And here's another thing. Have you noticed that for decades they've been talking, the media's been talking up the aging population and how we're not going to be able to afford to pay for everybody's retirement. There won't be enough young workers. Then all of a sudden it went quiet. Now they've been predicting for some time that most jobs will go by 2030. If you've been watching the artificial intelligence space and you've seen the advances in this technology, it's bloody quick. Artificial intelligence is going to demolish a lot of jobs.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the...
Why don't people in positions of power get grilled on what's going on? Well, the reason is most mainstream media is owned by 4 people across the world. So have a think about that, because can you imagine the enormous amount of power or the voice that these particular people have? So I've seen an organisational chart that links pretty much all of the major public companies in the world with 3 particular entities. So in other words, particular entities that have a lot of money have purchased their way into the shareholdings of most of the major corporations in the world, which means they get a lot of influence.
'Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way.
You see, some of the people in these privileged positions have a lot of arrogance and disrespect for the rest of humanity. Some of them, because of their position or their wealth or their intelligence or all 3, think that it's their duty to be caretakers for the world. It sort of sounds good. Somebody's got to look after the world. Somebody's got to make sure that we all survive. But the interesting thing is, would you agree with that if it's at our expense? And I'm going somewhere with all this. It is linked. People often think, well, how do all these people get together across the world, and it can't be a conspiracy or it can't be a particular agenda. Because how do they coordinate all this? It's very, very simple. All of the people who subscribe to this agenda attend particular schools. They are groomed as future young leaders because the organisations behind this push have been going literally for 100 years, and they groom them for their future roles, then they place them in these positions. I'm not going to specifically name anyone, but these people pop up as leaders of countries, as leaders of states within countries, as leaders of major corporations, as people who sit on the board of directors of major corporations, just people of influence that are put into positions of power, and all of them have a common agenda. It's not that big a deal if you think about it. So let's get back to Harley Davidson and the woke companies. Now here's how they influence the companies. They position their own people, and these people get placed into executive positions at major corporations or on boards of directors and they wave their particular agenda around and say, listen, this is what we're going to do. Now, just in case anybody says, no, we're not doing that, you've got to remember the second way they force their hand is through having major shareholdings in that company. Let's say a CEO of a company doesn't want to go along a particular path. Major shareholders can very easily crash the share price or manipulate the share price in some way in the short term. The shareholders will then probably call for the sacking. The bottom line is the executive is going to lose his or her job. So there's a lot of pressure on them to conform. And that's the two ways that they force companies like Harley Davidson into these particular positions. And you could probably argue that in the long term, it may not actually affect the share price. And you could also argue that a lot of Harley enthusiasts will forget about this incident soon. So this particular push is everywhere. It's not just Harley Davidson. So there's no reason to actually hate these companies. I'd be directing my anger at the people behind them who are pushing a particular agenda, and that agenda is a eugenics program or population control. These people behind the scenes think that there are too many people in the world. We're going to be running out of energy and resources, and their solution to that is to reduce the population. Now have a think about this. They don't need to kill anybody. All they need to do is affect the health of people over there, chop 10 years off somebody's lifespan because they eat this, blah, 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 blah. And once you look, you'll see this in all areas of your life. So just to put it all together, for example, the feminism movement will make women more independent, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it will have an impact on families. The transgender movement will facilitate more people being accepting of certain lifestyles, which will have an impact on families, a small impact. But it's just a very small part of a bigger puzzle. Reducing your meat consumption, not theirs, will have an impact across the world on people's health.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, think you're something.
If you go behind the scenes, each of these minor or seemingly minor things, and they all add up to reducing people's lifespans or not really enabling optimal health. We want to ride our Harleys for longer and harder, so we've got to be healthy, we've got to be fit, we've got to be safe. Don't fall for their agenda. Look after yourself. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Let me know in the comments what you know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So if you're interested in staying alive, check out my video, The 7 Ways to Stay Alive on Your Harley Davidson Motorcycle. If you like what I'm doing, consider supporting the channel. Check out our website, I'll put the link below. There's plenty of supporter gear there. Get yourself a cool looking sticker or patch. Stay fit and healthy. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.